So the I AJ and I talked a little bit about the field goal versus going for it on fourth down. I'd rather start with the last penalty on Kevin King. I will just real quick. Yes, he grabbed his jersey. He actually grabbed his jersey 2 times. Was that technically a penalty? Yes. But the 2 things I will say is obviously, as everybody saw, that's not how the game was being called. Up until then, refs were letting them play. Yep. And just even if I'm not a fan of the team, when you get to the higher levels, you get to these championships games, and some people probably, I know a lot of people disagree on me with this. I don't like refs deciding games, whether that's baseball, basketball, football. If you're a baseball umpire, expand the strike zone, make them hit, but be consistent. In basketball, there's going to be contact. Unless it's awful, let them play. It just drives me crazy when these huge games and specifically the last final seconds are decided by a referee.
Yeah, I mean, ball didn't look catchable, I'm going to be honest.
Nope.
Obviously when you call holding, obviously that doesn't matter in that context, but yeah, I mean, that one hurt. That's probably where my vocal cords really started to hurt at the end of that, because I was pretty pissed about the inconsistency of that. Obviously, on the Rodgers pick, you saw a little bit from Murphy Bunting. On the hold, they didn't call it. I think Lazard had one. I think maybe was it after one of the picks? Maybe it wasn't. It's hard to remember.
The pick, wasn't it?
Well, that was the Murphy Bunting one.
Right. Murphy Bunting held Lazard multiple times.
There was a second one I remember on a third down where, Rodgers still put the ball on the money and Lazard got his fingertips on it, but you could see the grab. I'm trying to remember what drive that was, but that one stuck in the mind too. So, there weren't like a lot of plays where there was holding in the definitive stuff, but those two stood out to me. And I think there was another one actually on Green Bay that they didn't call either.
And then there was one
on Green Bay that I can't remember now. I think it was on Sullivan. They didn't call it.
Yeah.
And obviously the ball wasn't catchable either. So it kind of felt the same as that ending one. Obviously I don't want to harp on it, but it felt like for most of the game, they were letting the DBs play.
Yeah. So bottom line, there's 6 examples. There's 6 opportunities where they didn't call it. And then the game deciding when they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll add the last one. I specifically remember because they highlighted it on the broadcast too, which I was like, wow, they're actually pointing out the refs not calling something for Green Bay against Tom Brady. But it was Devontae Adams, because he ran that route where he's in the slot, runs straight, fakes right, and then kind of double moves up towards the goalpost. And at the beginning of the game, he ran that, and he had 1 foot out. Rodgers hit him. He just couldn't get that second foot in. And then the second time he ran it, Murphy Bunting knew he was going to burn him, and so he grabbed his jersey. So that's the one that really stood out to me. Obviously, the 2 on Lazard. But again, I have no problem with letting the boys play, especially when it's a high level like this. If you want to let them play, and we'll accept that. But let them play the whole freaking game.
Yeah.
Well, especially too, because it was just so late.
Yeah,
it felt like there was 10 minutes after the play was over before that flag fell to the ground. It was. I think they had enough time to announce it on commentary that there was no flag, and then the flag came in. It was, and especially that you've been letting this shit slide all day, and then in this instance you decide in your head, let me think about this one a little bit longer, and okay, let me throw it now.
And the dive too, to really sell it. Man, that brings me back to why I really dislike basketball, is because players do that stuff, and get away with it. That's the worst part. And not to change sports, but like seeing flopping on an NFL field is just about the most ridiculous thing you'll see. In my opinion. So yeah, that call really hurt. Just the inconsistency. And I know, man, Twitter's just not the place to be during those moments at all.
I refused. I went for a drive. I refused to look at Twitter for a couple hours.
I had my phone off the entire game, but
I had to figure out how to filter the word Brady out of my Twitter timeline.
No, that's true.
All sorts of things.
I really should have done that.
Couldn't do it anymore.
I've gotten a lot of
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the other thing we wanted to talk about was the fourth down and goal, right?
Yeah.
Down 31-23. Green Bay, obviously, from I think the 7 or so, they opt to kick the field goal there. Obviously, you got 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning to potentially get a stop. Obviously means they could get a first down. Obviously, they did. Heck of a play by Snacks to jump off sides on a 2nd and 1 to make sure they had another chance at it.
Yep.
Really smart heads-up play, but obviously don't get the stop. So, I mean, that obviously brings you back to, do you go for it there to try and tie this game up? Obviously, you got to get the 2 as well, but do you go for it knowing your defense has played really well, obviously, in the second half, but you may not give – and maybe they've played too great in the other direction as relative to the first half that you think maybe they don't get it. It's a hard decision, but I want to hear what you guys think about that.
AJ we talked about this a little bit before, so AJ has very good thoughts. I'll let him go.
I think this was actually a lot more aggressive decision by LaFleur than people want to give it credit for, just because in this situation you've ran 3 plays, you've got no yards, and you've been in this spot before. Obviously, the 2 drives before that we went 3 and out. The Bucs defense had anchored down, was holding. Now in this situation, you've got the 2-minute warning, and thank you. I don't know who had the following kickoff after the field goal, who dove way too early.
Oh yeah, Mickett. What the heck are you doing there? Why are you not running?
Bless his soul.
Oh my gosh, he slid down with like 2:02 on the clock. I'm like, what are you doing? Run around. Like, awful my gosh. Like, obviously, as a fan, you love it, but like as someone who covers and watches a game a bunch, you're like, what are you doing? Oh man, sorry. Don't want to take you off.
No, but you're right, because but so regardless, I see a lot of people, why would you give Tom Brady the ball in the situation? Tom Brady's getting the ball back no matter what. There's no way we do this where he's not getting another possession. So what I'm saying is, I think it's more aggressive, the fact that this is LaFleur telling me he's going for the win. His defense is hot. He's going to put 3 points on the board, and then I just need to hit the end zone one time. I don't need the 2-point conversion. I don't need anything. I just need to get there one time, and we win. So regardless, you have to eventually put trust in your defense. And even say we go for it there and we score and we get the 2-point conversion, now you give them a 2-minute drill to go down, kick a field goal, and win the game.
And even if you stop them, you still have to go kick another field goal to win the game.
So
I think
in the grand schemes of things, you have. I mean, if you really think it through, to me, it's actually a pretty aggressive call, and LaFleur going for the win. And if it works, dude looks like a genius. It's Sean Payton kicking an onside kick to start the second half in the Super Bowl. I mean, it does. It looks aggressive. It looks tough, and they win. That's how we get to the Super Bowl. Think how that plays out. If things go the right way. This one didn't, and we can say I think Sean McDermott had a hell of a lot worse decisions kicking field goals in the following game than LaFleur did right then and there. So I totally get where it's at. I know people want to say, well, you have the MVP. Let him get a time. Well, we tried it 3 times before that, and it didn't work. So let's go a different option, because regardless of what happens, we have to stop them 3 times. This way now, I'm one Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary, which we know he can do, from the game winner. So,
and even then, it wouldn't have been a Hail Mary, because let's say Kevin King doesn't get called for holding. There's a minute something left, and they have a timeout.
Probably minute 40.
Yeah,
something like that.
So they get the ball back with a minute 30 even, and a timeout, let's say somewhere at their 20. Rodgers has done much more with much less. Plenty of examples of that. Does he do it? I don't know. But again, even just as if you want to look at it from an unbiased perspective, not a fan of the Bucs, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, or the Packers, I would rather see that game end with the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hand than a flag coming out of a ref's pocket.
Well, yeah,
So,
I think you made a great point though. Yeah, about we've seen him do this before. Obviously, the Seattle game didn't end how we wanted to, but somehow on basically one leg, he got them down for a field goal in the final seconds to just even force overtime back in January 2015.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what AJ was saying, if I'm gonna try and put it into like 15 words or less, is like,
yeah, good luck.
You can't going for it there isn't going for the win.
Right.
Yeah.
Going for it there is playing for OT almost.
Yeah.
In that you're hoping you can get a stop. And if you don't get down the field, you're like, all right, fine, we're going to OT. Which historically is not a great thing.
For the Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers in the postseason. So I think that's a really good point. I think obviously you get the 2-point conversion earlier in the game, and then obviously in that situation you're obviously going for the win, right? But yeah, I think you're down 8. I think obviously there's an argument to be made both ways, but I understand both. But AJ, I think you put it a good perspective on that as well. I think you want to get the ball back, and yeah, I think the defense, like you said, they've been playing hot. It's hard. Do I want to think the defense can get three stops? I hope so. Obviously, 3 straight picks is a little bit of an anomaly for this defense, but yeah, I mean, they, like you said, they've been playing hot, so it's hard to argue with that. I think it's a good point.
So
is that 15 words or less? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I
think it was the start, but then I started to my brain started to go.
Well, when you start actually thinking about it, you think about how the things are progressing. I mean,
it's like, yeah.
I mean, I can't sit there and say Matt LaFleur thought that whole thing through, but I do think he's thinking to himself, gets field goal here, we stop him 3, let's go, let's win this thing.
Yeah.